Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. Yeah, friggin' guy. It's November 2nd, David. We have survived the Halloween holiday, if you will. I'm not sure if it's an official holiday, an unofficial holiday. And gorgeous weather here in Southern California the past few days. It's been just ideal with South Swell and plenty of fun surf. And good morning to you, David Scales.
Good morning to you, Scott Bass. Um, did you celebrate Halloween? Did you get dressed up?
No, I'm sort of a curmudgeon. I was talking, somebody cut my hair the other day, and she's like, "What are you doing for Halloween?" I'm like, I'm hiding. And then I realized that's kind of a sad state that I hide from I should be a part of the community. And so I answered the door and I greeted the young children and their parents. And it was much more the way that we should live life is to be a part of the community, the children and the families. They want to, I think it's important to be inclusive in your little community. You know what I mean? And so I met a little dinosaur creature and some other little creatures, and we handed out candy, and my dog got to meet everybody. And, uh, and we have a cool little, small little neighborhood here too. So it's, everybody knows each other, and it's sweet. It's a sweet thing. And it's only gets out of hand when it's, 9 p.m. and there's like a 16-year-old going, trick or treat. Where's my kid?
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen where I live, but I imagine that does happen. In fact, I was that guy. I was that 16-year-old that was
So you bring
going
up a
to
lot
the,
of thoughts, or
yeah.
you stimulated a lot of thoughts. First of all, you're right. Your neighborhood is a little bit isolated, and there's one in and one out, and then all the streets are connected to one another. And so that makes it kind of, nice. It makes it a community. So I get that completely. And you don't want to be the curmudgeon in that community. You want to be a participant. I now have a 2-year-old. I see Halloween through completely different eyes than I ever saw before because I was the curmudgeon for the last 30 years, I'd say. But seeing how much he enjoys it, and this entire month leading up to it, every time we leave the house, he points to which streets he wants to go down because they have the blow up Halloween decorations in their yards. So we have to leave 5 minutes early for anywhere that we're going just so we can do those detours. So when you see that as the adult, you're like, oh, shoot, I should be, generating as much as this as possible for the other kids in the neighborhood and participating because it really does. It's the highlight of their day. So I would default to curmudgeon as well, but now I know not to, and the other thing is those moments of childlike, innocent glee, they don't last your whole life. You become cynical pretty quickly in life. And so foster those as much as you can.
That is sad. That is sad. There's plenty of childlike glee still occurring in our lives, and but yeah, I get what you're saying. Like it's easy to see the bad in front of the good, but
The
yeah,
only time the only time I see childlike glee like that is when my wife goes to a Taylor Swift concert. You know what I mean? Like that unadulterated bliss. And I mock it. As an adult, I'm just like, come on, Taylor Swift's not that great. But that is what that is. That is, she's tapping into childhood, crisp
yeah.
Halloween decorations.
By the way, I'm a Swiftie.
I
I'm
know
a
you are.
Yeah, I'm a Swiftie, and I don't even know any of her songs, and I'm just a Swiftie because um, she presents a lot of goodness. It seems like I sense a lot of sincere goodness from her, like sweetness. She seems like a kind, sweet person, and
Totally.
that's the vibe I guess. Not like she doesn't put out this like sexualized vibe, or like she's just really a nice young lady. And so I'm a Swiftie for that reason and that reason alone. I can't pick out any songs. I'm sure she makes some great music, and yeah.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about when you talked about the 16-year-old, I've not encountered this situation. I know that that does exist, but I'm thinking intellectually that why not just foster that in him too? Like give him candy, support him. Maybe he's a 16-year-old who's just trying to hold on to the last vestige of his childhood.
Yeah.
So why try to take it away from him?
Well, I agree with you, and I think maybe even engage him in some intellectual provocation. Maybe give them a book instead of candy, or with candy, like give them by the way, I don't know if I told you, I'm reading this book, The Splendid and the Vile. Did I tell you about this last time?
You
Great
did.
book.
Yeah.
Guys got to read that book. It's a wonderful book. Anyway.
Well, what you could do, give him the book, but he still wants candy, but maybe he doesn't need childlike candy. Maybe you turn him on to Lorna Doone. Maybe you go, hey buddy, as you age, this is how you level up.
Well, there's a limit to my kindness, and it's at Lorna Doone. I'm not giving up my Lorna Doones. No, actually, I don't eat the Lorna Doones anymore. I'm on the health program, the intake program. So
good for
I
you.
do have a problem with dark chocolate peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's.
I've got them too. They're
my
so
God.
good, dude.
They're a problem, David. I'm like, I take them and I can't stop. Like, I'm kind of like, I try to limit myself to 3 a night. How many do you eat?
Well, not only do I know exactly, 3 is 210 calories. There's 70 calories each. Exactly. So I'm like, you know what? 1's not enough. 3 is just right. If you eat 4 or 5, you feel bad, like not only guilty, but it actually makes your stomach hurt. 3, 210 calories I can handle, and I feel perfect.
Okay, you and I will make a pact. I'm going to try to stick to 3. Because what I do is I do 3 at a time. I'll do
in your mouth at once.
No, I'll do 3. I'll be like, I'm only eating 3, and then an hour later I'll be like, a couple more. And what I'll do is I'll intersperse some like corn nuts or some roasted peanuts in with it.
You're out of control.
Which is a rationalization that, this is now healthy. It's not good. This is how the
corn nuts are not healthy, nor are peanuts. So those are high calorie items too.
Oh my God, Lord have mercy. But okay, I feel like a camaraderie, a sense of like we're in this together, this limit of 3.
Now, absolutely. And do you put them in the refrigerator or not?
No. Sounds like a shit, because I know
that's my move.
Yeah, you're an expert with food, so that sounds like maybe something I should.
It's a personal preference thing, but I do enjoy them in the fridge. And I'll send you a photo from my fridge downstairs when we're done with this.
You know what? The other thing I do, which is bad, is I'll take some 75% cocoa dark chocolate and intersperse it with my 3 peanut butter cups things, thinking that this somehow also makes it better.
Yeah. You have an interesting mind. The way that works and the math that you do is really complicated calculus going on.
What a big rationalization.
Well, good. I'm glad we got to the bottom of our candy preferences in relation to Halloween, but I am glad it's over. I am focused on Thanksgiving now. And like you said, this fall, autumn weather is my favorite time of year. In fact, we had the offshore Santa Ana's kick in over the weekend. So along with Swell, in fact, so it's been good.
Yeah, it's been unreal, especially up there where you're at. I think the South Swell and the Santa Ana's combined, I've seen really great content from Huntington Beach, Newport Beach area, just super good little left peelers everywhere. And I've been foiling a bunch.
Have you?
I was surfing a couple of weeks ago. The last 4 or 5 days, it's been foil weather. It's pretty small down here, in 1 to 2 to 3 feet. Just sheet glass. The water is so translucent blue. I'm sure you're experiencing that too, where you're at. It's just see-through. It's just incredible. It's like you're in Hawaii or something. The temperature has dipped a bit. It's around 64 degrees, but man, the translucent nature of the ocean is so inviting.
It's beautiful. And the nights have gotten cold, but the days are still 90 degrees, So in the morning, it's frigid and you go down to the beach and you're thinking you're going to freeze your balls off, but the water is actually warmer than the air, which is really nice. It's just it's a magical time of year, in fact.
Well, speaking of that, I'll follow up just real quick on last week's El Nino discussion. So, of course, what you should do if you're interested in El Nino is follow Mark Sponsler's YouTube channel, Storm Surf. He does an intense 35-minute breakdown of everything that's happening in the world of El Nino. But I will just summarize it by saying that El Nino is continuing to ramp up. And this is sort of from Mark, not nearly as powerful as the incredible El Nino of 1997, but an El Nino that is of solid proportion and better than some of the past El Ninos of the 2000s. So if you're into the science of it all, the MJO, the ENSO, the Kelvin waves, it's all rather fascinating. Go to Mark's sponsor Storm Surf channel, but do know that the El Nino continues to ramp up, and that's a good thing.
Good. I've got a number of topics today, and as I was thinking through them all, there's a theme. There's a unifying theme. And I think that this theme has actually been kind of unifying shows from week to week as well. And that is a kind of general economic depression globally and how it's affecting the surf world. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through today's show. The first thing that I was going to bring up was the new Big Wave Challenge.
Yes.
Should we discuss that, or did you have something to kick off with?
No, I'm fine with that. I do have a bunch of stuff, but and that's one of the things that I have. And I'm excited about this, but I know Bill Sharp well. He's a great guy. He's a great marketer, and this doesn't seem like the greatest name.
I know. So let's kind of
Hard to like
unpack.
put it on it surprises me because I know Bill's super sharp that way. Like he'll usually come up with something.
No pun
And the new
intended.
Big Wave Challenge just sounds like it wasn't thought through.
Well, and you're talking about him being a savvy marketer. Nobody knew about this until after it happened. Even the surfers themselves who are going to accept awards were not publishing about it on social media or their YouTube channels or anything like that. This was all it seemed like it all, yeah, I didn't know about it until after it happened. But anyways, the new Big Wave Challenge, what is happening here? Basically the WSL bought the Big Wave World Tour and then essentially shuttered it. Like they kind of stopped running events. It started with a number of events, then it trickled down into, I think, 2 events. But they only run if there is, of course, massive swells to run. So ultimately, it's gotten put on the back burner by the WSL. That has left a gap for somebody else to do something adjacent to the Big Wave World Tour.
Right.
That's not what this.
Real quick and just say that it seems rather obvious to me that the WSL owns the name XXL, and just put Bill in a quandary where he's like, okay, they're shuttering it. It's kind of like Sacred Craft with me. It's like, okay, they're shuttering it. I need to do it because there's an opportunity and the space demands it. I need a new name now. And I think that's what happened with Bill. XXL is probably a trademark owned by the WSL, and they're not willing to give it back.
And they're not officially shuttering it either. They're just not doing anything with it, essentially. Like it takes money to run the events, and they're running low on money. And again, this is kind of in relation to that larger unifying theme that I'm talking about. The WSL is now allocating where they want to spend their money, and it's not on the Big Wave World Tour. So anyways, there is the other thing that's happening is there's nothing more marketable and easy to understand than big wave surfing, right? For the global audience who doesn't know how to surf, that is something that is, you see a tiny human on a massive mountain of water and it's like, wow, that's impressive. ESPN will run clips. So it seems to be that would actually be the easiest version of surfing to capitalize on, and to make profitable.
To put in front of the masses, which seems to be what they've been wanting since WSL started.
Right. So what Bill Sharp is doing here with the new Big Wave Challenge is not running a tour. What he is doing, though, is hosting an awards ceremony. So it seems like Bill figured out like, hey, WSL is not doing anything with the Big Wave thing. So let's figure out how to monetize it, or at least coalesce the community in a way that maybe we can then monetize without spending a ton of money. And so what this is an awards ceremony. So I'm just going to read directly from their website. It says, quote, "The new Big Wave Challenge is a fresh take on the tradition of providing a town square for the best athletes and content creators to gather together and share what they do with the world. All year long, the surfers surf and the shooters shoot. And at the end of the season, the crew gets together and celebrates the best waves and the best performances as captured on video and still photos. This year's event window will include every wave ridden at every big wave break around the world from August 2022 through July 2023. The top contenders will rise to the top, and the winners will be declared at a gala awards party to be held in Nazare, Portugal on October 28th, 2023. Watch as Big Wave Surfers' favorite annual competition returns to keep the fans informed and entertained. Basically, what you're saying is this is the former XXL Awards. It does not have that name anymore, but we're just going to do it, basically. And so that event took place. Interestingly, their Instagram account only has 4,400 followers. Their YouTube account only has 500 subs. So this is well under kind of promoted, I would say.
Yeah, it is. But look, there's so much room for growth. This is going to probably grow into one of the greatest things. It'll grow into the size of the XXL or bigger. They're just like, let's kick it off. We know it's going to be small the first year. We got to do this. There's a whole season of Big Wave content that we need to celebrate. So they've done that. My hat's off to them. I can't wait till this is live streamed next year, which it will be. And it turns into a grand affair with grand, huge waves and man against nature and everything that you and I love. And I only see tons and tons of upside for this. I'm sure you do too.
Well, this is the perfect microcosm example to test out what you and I have been asking for the WSL's championship tour to do. It is mainly invite best surfers in the world. I mean, it's not invite, but it is the best surfers in the world doing their thing. It's kind of a purple blob situation, purple blob tour. There's, I guess this is more a video format than it is an organized contest, but it allows for the mobility that we're talking about. The other thing that I think is really savvy here is Nazare at every turn has taken the opportunity to become synonymous with big wave surfing. Like them hosting this event for Bill, it's like Hawaii could easily be the big wave surfing Mecca and would always be, except Nazare has really shoehorned all the attention towards them. They have one spot rather than multiple, but they are now around the world the first name in big wave surfing, which I think is super savvy.
I totally agree. It's almost like Hollywood and the film industry, it has become the place where the Oscars take place.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that the mayor, in fact, they gave the mayor of Nazare some sort of little award acknowledgement. But that mayor in that city and that chamber of commerce, or whatever you call them, has done a great job, as you mentioned, of just owning it and being proud of it. And it is what and now it's stamped.
Totally. And if you watch 100-Foot Wave on HBO season 1, they do a great job detailing their absolute intention to become synonymous with big wave surfing. This was not, happenstance.
Yeah.
So now the other couple of things that are smart about this from Bill Sharp's point, kind of the way that he wrangled it, is that there's the best surfing ever. The best surfing is happening this year on the big wave venues, and people are self-documenting it. So Bill Sharp is not, organizing crews to go chase those swells and to film it and to stream it and all that. He is just coalescing it at the end of the year. So my question to you is, where is the business opportunity here for Bill? How do you turn this in, monetize it? Because these
obviously sponsorship dollars, like monetization, is going to take place on YouTube when he gets to, I wouldn't be surprised. How many does Jamie O'Brien have? How many subscribers?
Oh, I'd have to look. I think
let's just say roughly.
Let's say it's 1 million.
Okay, let's say it's 1 million. Okay, incredible. So Bill's obviously going to monetize this when he gets to 250,000 subscribers and then gets to 1 million subscribers. So there's going to be monetization through sponsorship, through simple revenue from YouTube itself. And I think those are his two revenue streams right there: sponsorship and YouTube.
Yeah, Jamie's at 915,000, so almost 1 million.
Yeah.
So I think that the direction that Bill would go with this is to actually form a tour.
I don't know about that. That's interesting. Because right now you just mentioned how not easy, but basically the content's being created for him. Why reinvent the wheel?
Well, I think
Why
there's
not just have all the
two.
content coalesce like he's doing and go, look, everybody's seen all this stuff. Here it all is. We've all seen it throughout the year. Let's acknowledge, first of all, everyone. The other thing that's cool, I don't want to get on a sidetrack, but there's such a community around these big wave surfers. The fact that they don't actually put jerseys over their thing, over their chest and paddle out for 15 or an hour really changes the way they look at each other and the way the whole space is kind of develops. And so there's a more of a, there's always been a community thing, and this just helps to kind of continue that vibe. And I lost track of my first thought, but
That's okay. It'll come back to you, I'm sure. I think that the this is like we already said,
oh yeah,
not a
you
lot
want
of
a tour. I don't want a tour.
well, not I don't necessarily want it. I'm saying this is not a lot of expense and it is a business model, but I think that there's an additional business there in the tour. If this all gathers the traction and eyeballs that we're talking about, then it would be a logical next step to get the best of the best together at the best spot when the swell is happening, and that could be additional revenue stream. I would think that the sponsors would fully support something like that, but I certainly don't need it, and I think that both things can coexist. But
Yeah, I think if we were whiteboarding, which is what we're doing, we would throw that up on the wall and we'd look at it and we'd chew on it and we'd look at the cost involved and the logistic nightmare of it all. And we'd say to ourselves, these guys are already there.
that's
These
the
guys are
point.
already all going to Mulligmore. They're already all going to Nazare. Do we need to really put jerseys on them? Let's just let them create the content and everyone will
Well,
vote or however they vote, you know.
yeah, you're right. And I guess it doesn't need to be jerseys on even, but if they are, that's kind of, they're already there. There's a lot less organization that needs to happen now in 2024 than there was 10 years ago. And so at the end of the day, can we deem a winner? And then at the end of the year, we still have an awards ceremony for the year end stuff, but on a given day, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking through it myself, and I'm not sure that I'm for it or against it right now, but I think that there's additional opportunities there to build a business for something like that. But let's talk about this surfing itself now. So surfer, they gave awards for surfer of the year, men and women, ride of the year. What else? Paddle wave, biggest wave, wipeout of the year, young gun, contributions to the sport. So surfers of the year are Nathan Florence and Justine DuPont.
Incredible. And why not? Because if you look at the next category, ride of the year, those are the two rides of the year.
Makes perfect sense.
It kind of
And
does.
and there's nobody who's done a better job of documenting their exploits this year than Nathan Florence.
Yeah.
And so I'm not taking anything away from his surfing. In fact, I couldn't. His surfing is unbelievable. But the reality is there's probably other surfers who are not traveling as much as him because they don't have the budget as him. But there are other surfers as dedicated to big wave surfing who don't have the camera crew traveling with them and the constant publication. But again, I can't take anything away from him because the waves that he surfed this year were groundbreaking waves. And I would have thought that the right that he got at Eileen's might have been the wave of the year, but because that was kind of the most memorable one from the year, just off the top of my head. But it was actually a left that he got at Mulligmore Head. That was the ride of the year. It's this insanely, I mean, I'm sure that you saw this wave, right?
Yeah. I just saw it again today, I think.
Yeah, it is insane. And what's crazy is it used to be ride of the year was big wave, straight drop, bottom turn, kind of into the channel. Whoever got the biggest wave got the ride of the year. Now it's almost always a barrel. And but it's not just a chopu barrel, it's like a crazy gurgling, 20-foot barrel.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be cold, but yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
funny because, like last year, you and I were trying to coalesce the best rides ever, the top 10 all-time rides, and I was looking at that list the other day and I was going, gosh, we already need to add some more to that list and take some away. And by the way, I changed the category. I've changed the category now to the top 10 all-time waves captured on film. Earlier, you and I had like Greg Knoll's wave at Mecca, which no one ever really saw. I mean, people saw it, but it's never been captured on film. And so I took some of those waves away, which is kind of a bummer for history, but there just simply aren't a lot, there isn't a lot of footage of that. But you have to now add some of these waves. For sure, Justine DuPont's wave at Cortez Bank has to be added to the top 10 all-time waves captured on film. One, we didn't ever have a woman on this list. Now we have a woman, which I think is well deserved, because that wave, man or woman, was friggin' huge. It was intense. It was intense. And so, and then Nathan and Mulligmore, that's one that can be debated if it makes that list.
Well, I think Paizel needs to be given a raise as well, because Nathan Florence's stuff is next level. But I mean, his foam ball wrangling and the way that that board manages through surf that we've never seen a surfboard manage through before is remarkable, you know?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, this kind of gets to the, Indian or the arrow discussion. You look at certain surfers, Tom Curran comes to mind, all of these guys, Rob, Nathan Florence, every single one of these guys, you give them a piece, you give them a door and they're going to surf the thing insane. I'm not taking away anything from John's boards, which I love. And I think the Pizels do probably help. I mean, having an expertly professionally hand-shaped surfboard or just, shaped surfboard, designed surfboard under your feet is incredible. And it's crucial. But I even think John would say, hey, man, it's Nathan Florence, yeah, my boards are great. But what are your thoughts? Is it the Indian or the arrow?
It's both, but it's a pinnacle moment where both things were fully invested for a decade, refining their craft, and then they're both happen to meet in a moment in an incredible, part of the ocean and do something that we've never seen done before. I mean, the foam ball wrangling that he does on the right at Eileen and the left at Mulligmore are two, I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for the confidence level of your mental state when you're on an incredible board like a Paizel. Like just paddling out into those situations, you don't need any drama about what kind of gear is under your feet. You know what I mean? And to know that you've got a Paizel that's just going to be perfect for the situation just takes that element away and allows you to concentrate.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. So congratulations to Nathan Florence. Justine DuPont won for both, we said, Women's Ride of the Year and the Biggest Wave for the Monster at Cortez Bank. It was on January 13th, 2023. And it was for the filming of season 3 of HBO's documentary series 100-Foot Wave, which has not aired yet. Yeah. So we'll see that kind of play out, the whole storyline play out on HBO, I'm sure sometime soon. But huge congrats to her. And I said that nobody's been as committed to kind of documenting and chasing waves around the world. Justine would be the second person that I could think of right behind Nathan Florence. Her exploits have been insane this year.
One way that you could create something that would be fun and that you could monetize is a feature film that's just about big waves, and maybe you break it up into decades, because behind each one of these rides is an incredible little story. I mean, wouldn't it be insane to have an hour-and-a-half feature film that's just the greatest big wave rides in the past 20 years? And each one's got just the perfect amount of talking heads setting up the thing so that when you do climax to the ride and the aftermath, you're like, wow. And then you go to the next one, and now we're at Jaws, and it's Dorian and his experience of that late drop, and him talking about it in the boards, and then you go to the next one, and it's whoever. It's a situation at Nazare where what was that gal's name who broke her back there?
Maya Gabiera.
Yeah, Maya. You have that story, and then that ride, and I mean that's something that my grandmother, your grandmother, our parents, people that don't surf, in other words, would go and go, oh wow, cool, little story set up, and then oh my God, look at that, man versus nature, and then again and again and again, telling the whole and encapsulating that into a content piece.
Well, the reason why I think you and I want that is because so many of these big wave surfers, we don't even know anything about their story. You know what I mean?
And the backstory behind the rides is just helps to kind of
Totally.
heighten it all, you know?
I mean, I'm very interested in that, and that's part of what 100 Foot Wave does so well, is kind of getting into those stories. But like you and I know about Shane Dorian to a certain degree, um, Nathan Florence to a degree, but Chacha Ibarra, who won the paddle wave at this award ceremony at Punta Lobos, I've never even heard his name before, and he's
Yeah, he's
winning the
probably
award.
like, he's probably a farmer or something, you know what I mean? Like he's probably got a
Yeah,
great blue collar story.
totally. Another talking point which we've had in the past is Laura Enever won for the paddle award for the women's, for a wave that I think we all saw at the outer reefs of Oahu. I think maybe the day that the Eddie ran, I want to say, or maybe the day that
Yeah,
Eddie
I think it
didn't
was that
run.
one Bluebird day that they were all surfing out there. It's funny that we don't say the name of that spot.
Yeah. Well, the talking
Surfer's
point
the
is
worst.
the talking point here, though, is that she didn't complete the ride. She won the award for biggest paddle wave, and she gets detonated kind of towards the bottom of the wave, not even at the bottom of the wave. She makes the craziest part of the drop, and then uh yeah, rolls up the windows a bit, and there's the explosion behind her, and she kind of gets detonated in that whitewash kind of reverb as it bounces off the bottom of the wave. So what are your thoughts on getting awarded the wave of the year, but or the paddle of the year, but not completing the ride?
Well, I I I'm okay with it. I am. Because I think what they're kind of awarding, I don't know, in general, I've always been against this, by the way. I've always been against, if you don't make the wave, it doesn't count. But Laura Enever, for lack of a better phrase, cojones that it takes to paddle in out there. Um, I don't know what was this? What was the second place winner? Like how does it compare to the next one in line?
It's a great question, and I think that's where the answer lies, because when we had this discussion maybe 2 years ago where it was Maya Gabiera versus Justine Dupont at Nazare, and they both had similar sized waves, it was deemed that Maya's was slightly larger, but I mean, we're talking by a couple of feet on a 60 footer. So 60 foot versus 63 feet, let's say. And Justine completed the 60 footer and Maya didn't complete the 63 footer. Maya won that award. And my argument was, gosh, you got to complete the ride. But the reality is, Laura, if the second place contender is, not nearly as crazy of a wave, then it feel like Laura should get the nod in that scenario. The other detail to factor in is that Laura made the craziest part of the wave. She made the drop. She got to a part of the wave where she had used all of the energy from the drop and it was kind of slowing down. But the way that the slope on that wave just kind of broke and was then exploding faster than she was moving. And it was kind of, I don't know that there was another line that she could have taken that would have allowed her to make the drop. Or if she took that other line, it wouldn't have been on the critical part of the contour of the face. So it wouldn't have been impressive. So there's all of that complexity to kind of factor into that ride.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it almost feels like a year or two ago when Idolo lands a crazy full rotation air, lands it, and then there's the explosion and doesn't kind of continue riding on the flats out into the whitewash, and the judges deemed it incomplete. Well, he completed the air, he landed it, and then didn't complete riding on the whitewash, which isn't an important part of the wave. That almost feels like what happened to Laura here, is she got the hardest part done and then didn't complete riding on the whitewash. And so
Yeah, and the concept of completing the wave feels like almost an archaic sort of paradigm that's like has a contest vibe to it that we're trying to fit onto this situation. And isn't it nice to realize that because there's no jersey on, we actually don't need to put that rather archaic contest paradigm on this ride. We can just look at it with those blinders off and just go, wow, insane. No doubt, slam dunk winner.
I agree. This is progress.
Yeah.
I think so too. Biggest wave, Nick Von Rupp at Nazare and Sean Walsh at Jaws. They got a tie for the biggest wave. Justine Dupont, of course, at Cortez again, same wave. Wipeout of the year, Danny Griffiths at Shipstern Bluff, and just one winner in that category. Young Gun is Ned Hart.
Oh,
And
Ned,
then
other guy we don't know.
let's do that deep dive documentary piece on Ned. Is Ned short for something, by the way?
Nedrick? I don't know.
Netathin.
Good question.
Contributions to the sport. Big Wave founder Gary Linden got the award deservedly, and Nazare Mayor Walter Chicharo.
By the way, the wipeout of the year is insane. I'm sure everyone's seen it. It's kind of all over the Instagram and the internet, but that's another one where I'm sure they did do a little bit of a deep dive. One of the guys that was on site talked to Danny afterwards, but what an incredible wipeout. And you can absolutely see your wife or my wife being enthralled by the backstory and the slow motion of that video, and then the normal speed of that ride. And just, I mean, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was talking about the economic, kind of external economic factors going on in the world and how they're affecting the surf world. There's no prize money given to any of these winners at this. This was strictly kind of a celebration event. And I think that the WSL not having the finances to fully invest in the Big Wave World Tour is obviously a shame, but it also has left an opportunity for regrowth and rebirth and a phoenix to rise from the ashes here. And I think it's okay that there's no money involved right now. You know, like this is kind of the purest form of this, is just a community getting together to celebrate. We have all the video clips. We have a city that's willing to host the event. Why not coalesce and celebrate? And so I think this is a great opportunity here for something really pure and organic to grow in the kind of downfall of the economy.
Yeah, there's an authenticity, but mark my words, I think that the title of this event is the new Big Wave World Challenge or something like that. What is it called?
Correct. Correct.
Well,
New Big Wave Challenge.
The new Big Wave Challenge. That word new is going to be removed, and it's going to be replaced with Red Bull or whatever it is. That's where the sponsor's name is. It will be the Red Bull Big Wave Challenge next year, or whatever, the Google Big Wave Challenge, or whoever
GoPro.
Yeah, whoever they get, it'll be there. That's
Meta.
Yeah. Hey,
well,
I got a question for you. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
You go.
Well, I sense that you were going to move into the shakeup of the surf industry sponsorship thing, which I think is friggin' boring.
Well, let's start with it's Authentic Brands Group is what you're talking about, the transition, right?
Yeah, but nothing really happened. I mean,
well, more important than any of the surfers and their sponsors is that 84 people were laid off at those groups, at those brands in Southern California. In a letter, the company called the permanent layoffs necessary but difficult measures. 72 positions cut in Huntington Beach headquarters, 19 in Costa Mesa and in Mira Loma, and another at Universal City. The eliminated jobs ranged from the top level down, from CEO to several vice presidents, jobs in the art department, design, marketing, sales department, and beyond. So this is Authentic Brands Group, who has taken over Board Riders, which was Quicksilver, Billabong, Ruka, and a bunch of other smaller brands. And then Stab Magazine wrote an article and said, look, they're cutting costs. Basically, Authentic Brands Group is kind of going a total different direction with these brands, and they're reducing costs. One of their main measures is to reduce expenses, and one of the large expenses is paying surfers contracts. And so if anybody's contract is expiring this year, which a lot of them were set to expire on October 31st, 2023, then the renegotiation will be probably half of what their payment was prior, their salary was prior, or they won't be renewed at all, except for a couple of marquee guys. So the ones that are still on the team, Ethan Ewing, Steph Gilmore, Caroline Marks, Koa Smith, Baron Mamiya, a couple legacy guys, those that might be cut in half would be Mikey Wright, Kanoa Igarashi, believe it or not, Seth Moniz, Rio Waida. The other ones that are likely off the team, Liam O'Brien, Ryan Callanan, Eitan Osborne, names that you might expect kind of on the lower tier of the CT. You're saying that it doesn't matter. I'm saying that it's part of, again, this larger theme that is emerging, which is global economic factors starting to depress, not starting to, but totally depressing what's going on in the surf world. And this is going on from the largest brands with the highest paid athletes down to board builders, who are now glass shops, stuff like that, going out of business. And like with the example with the Big Wave World Tour, I see this as an opportunity for rebirth, actually. Like that model of Ryan Callanan getting paid a salary from Billabong and those two being synonymous and trying to make it work for one another for 3 to 5 years, I think is tired. And 3 to 5 years is too long. I see Ryan Callanan getting this cut and thinking, and then having to reinvent and think, okay, you know what? Social media, YouTube, all of this stuff, this is actually better for me. This suits me better. I can write my own ticket. I could do my own surfing, document it, connect with my own not listenership, my own followers, and I'm not beholden to anybody. I do it on my own terms. And then the brands who kind of align with me in my terms, they can support me and I could support them, and it's more organic.
Yeah, I guess I just don't care what sticker is on your surfboard. And this kind of speaks to what you just said. I'd much rather just want to see you surfing. So go on YouTube and let me watch you surf. But there's this tone in this article on Stab, like, for instance, they talk about Hurley or Blue Star Alliance purchasing Hurley. And there's a line that they use where some contracts were cut because Hurley got rid of a bunch of people. And they said loyalists did not like this, not one bit. In other words, loyalists, whoever that, what does that even mean? Loyalists, does that mean you and me? Fans didn't like that Hurley cut a bunch of people?
I think that's what they meant.
Do you think, did you give a shit?
No,
I don't give a shit.
No, but I think
but I don't really like, I'm not like, oh, well, that's it. I'm not going to buy Hurley now. No, I was never going to, like,
but I think that's so that
and maybe I've aged out. Have I aged out? Or I mean,
no, you are the modern.
Do you care what somebody sees you wearing in the parking lot at the beach?
Not at all. No. But what I'm saying is whoever wrote that article is using an outdated frame of mind to even write that article. What they thought was loyalists in this former model that we were living in, John Florence only had 2 opportunities to get paid, either through those long-term sponsorships with a big endemic surf brand, or earning contest earnings on the championship tour. That's not the way of the world anymore. And anybody who's clamoring onto that, thinking that they are going to earn a living off of that, is totally not taking cues from what's been happening for the last 5 years. And so this article, I agree, it's worth noting, like they should write the article, but there's no, if you feel any sadness about it, it's only nostalgia. Like that's not the way that it's going to be. It didn't make sense. It actually drove a lot of those companies into bankruptcy. That wasn't the main factor that drove them into bankruptcy, but that model no longer works. And in fact, I'm not even convinced it ever worked, even when things were humming along and everybody was profitable. You know what I mean? So take note, dust yourself off, get on YouTube, get on Instagram, start taking selfies, start trying to connect with brands that you align with, and send your portfolio out. Treat it like a business. Treat your day-to-day, if you want to be a professional surfer today, treat your day-to-day surfing and promotion of it as a business.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. When was the last time you surfed in a surf contest?
When I was 15, maybe.
How did it make you feel?
Terrible.
So
completely deflated my ego.
I was asked to be a beach commentator last weekend at Seaside Reef for the Encinitas Board Riders event, and they put me in a heat. And first of all, let me just say that it was a wonderful event, a community event. It was held to kind of solidify the team. They're actually having the first event of the West Coast Board Riders this weekend at church, where, you know, San Clemente and Oceanside and Carlsbad and Encinitas. And I'm not probably Dana Point and I don't even know. There's a bunch of teams, right? They're all having their event.
Seal Beach, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach.
Yeah, it's quite a crew
Laguna
of guys.
Beach.
By the way, it's extremely competitive. Like it's basically a bunch of ex-CT guys that are still surfing red hot, trying to get a sticker on their board now. But it's a wonderful community event, and in many ways, it was just to kind of like get the team fired up for this weekend's contest, but also to celebrate Alyssa Spencer and Jake Marshall, two of NCAA's finest, who are now going to be on the WSL's WCT in 2024. And as I mentioned, Jeff Baldwin and Chris Cote and I were beach commentators. It was super great, right? And there was a bunch of red hot surf, and the waves were pumping at Seaside, and guys were ripping, you know, Taylor Clark and Levi Slauson and JD Lewis and Taylor Devine, like older crew guys, Brad Haglund and David Nixaholdnick and Ross Garrett, a bunch of guys. And the winners were in the 50 plus, Doug Delancey. In the 40 to 49, Ross Garrett, the CEO of Surfline, won the 40 to 49. Daryl Goodrum won the 30 to 39. Levi Slauson won the 20 to 29. Titus Santucci won the 15 to 19. Under 14, Brody Buck. And the 10 and under push-in division, Jax Machado. And of course, Rob Machado was there putting on a style clinic. But I surfed in a heat, David. I surfed in a heat. They put me in a heat. And I have a love-hate relationship with surfing contests, mostly hate. And I never surf relaxed. I lack grace when I put on a jersey. I'm anxiety ridden. The whole thing is there's no win. You know, the whole thing is like nag for me personally. And that's why I was wondering if you've done it lately, if you surfed in a contest, because there's a reason I don't do it. And I used to do it a lot. And the reason I stopped doing it is because of these feelings that I felt. I'm like, it's just not fun anymore.
Well, the only thing that I can relate to that is surfing in the wave pools. I get some of that same anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. Especially at Kelly, where there's like a time limit.
Exactly. So what were the waves like, and what did you ride?
Waves are pumping. I mean, you know, it was 3 to 5 feet with some 6-foot sets. I rode my quad fin, my Ryan Seiko quad fin, which I love. And I got second. In my heat. Doug Delancey, the eventual winner of that division, took out first. And he's a guy that's just into it, you know, like, and that's how you have to be. You have to be like Doug Delancey. You have to be so focused. You have to be in tip-top shape. You know, you got to bring down 3 different boards and 4 different dry wetsuits and be focused on winning a surf contest. And I'm just not in that space. And my hat's off to those that are. And Doug's obviously one of them. And I'm imagining he'll represent Encinitas Board Riders this weekend. And I hope he does. He's a great surfer. Well,
your second place, wouldn't that mean that you advanced to the next
heat? So I advanced. I went into the next heat and lost. I paddled out to the reef and basically got lost out there while all the other 5 guys in my heat continued to surf the little Palisades beach break. And I just took a gamble, and I frankly, I just didn't surf well either. Like the waves that I caught, I was just flailing, and I didn't deserve to advance anyway. But which is fine, because most of my energy was supposed to be being a beach commentator, which I was, and which I enjoyed, and it was fun. By the way, Chris Cote suggested to me that you have sort of a negative vibe, that you're putting off a negative vibe on this podcast.
Cote's ultimate positive guy. So
he even said that. He goes, look, that's coming from me, the wall of positive noise. I mean, he didn't say it like that. He goes, maybe I'm too positive. I don't know, but there's probably a happy medium. But
I accept that.
He's a lot of fun to work with, and he's easy to get along with. But
totally, I appreciate
that to you. That I sensed that he was like, yeah.
I appreciate that from Chris, and noted, Chris. I hear you loud and clear. And I appreciate Chris's contributions to all of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that thing about getting lost is what I was going to say as well, is not only will I surf more stiff and not natural under contest or wave pool environments, I'm going to make terrible decisions. I question everything. Like if I just paddle out of my local beach, there's no thought. I'm just kind of on the right waves and I know which waves are best for me to do what I want to do on. All of that goes out the window with a contest jersey on. It's like I find myself questioning everything. And then while the wave's coming, I'm questioning whether this is what I want to do. Well, what does everybody else think? Are the people on the beach, do they see something else? Is there something out the back that they're seeing that I'm not seeing? Maybe they're going to think that I shouldn't have gone on this one. I know I could rip this smaller one over the bigger one, but no, they're going to think I should have got the bigger one. Like ruin everything.
Yeah, we overthink it. And isn't that what surfing really, one of the beauties of surfing when you really boil it down, is that Zen-like quality to it, that you're not really thinking when it's just you in the ocean and there's not 75 people on the beach staring at you in a colored jersey. That's why we do it, is because of these moments of solace.
I know. It's the exact opposite of surfing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your second place. That was
That
a
was
long,
just,
that was
no,
a
that was
long,
just
humble
second
brag,
place
by the way.
in the preliminary heat. I lost and did not make it into the finals. But I will say this, that my ego, you get a little jolt when they announce your name over the the public address system, that you advance, that you got second, and everyone comes up to you and bros down with you, and there's, I'm not going to lie, there's that.
Yeah.
That's really all that's the only upside, is an ego jolt, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's sad. It's human is what it is. But let's talk about, you mentioned the celebration for the local surfers who have just kind of
Yes.
earned their spot onto the CT. Those surfers are, we mentioned them last week, Cole Houshman, Crosby Colapinto, Jake Marshall, Cade Madsen, Sawyer Lindblad, Alyssa Spencer. What I am thinking you and I need to do, we'll start it here today, is we need a PR campaign to support our local compatriots. The Brazilians had the Brazilian Storm. I am here now branding this as the Freedom Force.
Wow. The Freedom Force. I'm okay with that, but can we have a discussion about the branding of this?
We can workshop it for sure. Whatever you want, I'm down. And we can even get their feedback on it. We can let them help. Maybe Chloe Andino already has a brand because this is all his kind of group, mentee group. But my point is, we can't just let them all go out there on tour and flail for themselves. We need to rally around. We need to buy plane tickets, show up in Portugal on the beach, wave the flag, all of it.
Well, here's the thing, is that I agree with what you're saying, but the Brazilian Storm is specifically the Brazilian Storm because I sense that they all hooey up together and they all kind of travel as a energy pod. And that's just not the nature of America. America's got such an individualistic sort of aesthetic or theme to it, right? Like we've always been sort of on our own. We've never, we just haven't had that sort of bonding. You know what I mean? Like there's an individualistic spirit to us all.
How's that working out? Worked well for Kelly, CJ, Lisa, but now I think we need to take cues from the successes of others and maybe apply some of that.
All right. Okay. So more of a community spirit amongst all of us supporting our American surfers. Now, do we do this with John John? Is John John an American or is he a Hawaiian? Like, how do we handle, Ian Gentile?
I hear you. I don't think that we can interrupt what is already kind of set in motion in respect to that. Surfing deems Hawaii as a nation state, and so it is what it is. I think we focus our efforts on the Southern California movement that is happening now. And I would in fact argue that the success of this group, this new crop of surfers, is related to a certain hooeying up and coalescence. Like everybody was trying to do it individually for a long time. And we got one Chloe Andino over here. We got one Griffin Colapinto a little bit later. Kanoa came up, but then he identified as Japanese. So now we don't count him anymore. But this group that is currently happening is under the guidance and the wings of Chloe Andino. He's kind of shifted his focus to redirect the limelight onto this younger group and to support them and create a brand around them with 2% and all that. And I don't think it's a coincidence.
The Chloe thing is very San Clemente specific. Like I don't sense that Jake Marshall and Alyssa Spencer are in that group.
Yeah, I guess you're right. They're not, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the group that has come up is part of what I'm talking about with Kaloe.
I agree. There's great energy there. He's done a good job of yes.
And so we need to, they did it. That's the nucleus. That was the start of it. They're now earned their spot onto the tour. And we need to acknowledge that effort and kind of come and wrap them up as a media, team around it and support it.
Even more than that, I mean, it's Kaloe, and in some ways it's Matt Biolos. It's like there's a lot of those guys. I want to say almost all of those guys and gals are writing Losts. They're writing Matt's boards, and he does such a good job online of acknowledging them and supporting them and just giving them their comeuppance. And it feels real San Clemente-ish. And I'm hoping that the Freedom Force includes, Alyssa and includes Jake Marshall. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be, and that's only going to come from Kaloe. Kaloe needs to open up his wings and go, come in, we're all one here. Because right now it feels real San Clemente-ish. And by the way, the West Coast Board Riders thing, all of these regional teams sort of helps to divide everybody. It doesn't make them as one.
Well, that's true, but I think it divides them by county, or by city, but also connects them all as a group of Californians. Like there's camaraderie even within that.
I don't know. There's a lot of regional pride at these events, and they're all friends. Don't get me wrong, but they're also very, very quick to raise the San Clemente flag, as they should be. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that it does take away from a pluralism, a sense of let's all be together on one for those North American surfers that are now on the CT.
Yeah. Real quickly, just to clarify, you're right. Matt Biolos has Crosby Colapinto, Cole Hauschman, Cade Madsen, and I believe Sawyer Lindblad. Jake Marshall's on Sharp Eye. Alyssa Spencer's on Channel Islands.
Yeah, and Matt has at least two of the girls. I know Carissa, obviously, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He'll tell us. I know he's got another one of the gals, at least, probably more.
So interestingly, we were talking about Brazil has kind of, been the main conversation up until just recently in terms of who's coming up and who's the hottest new prospects, but they don't nearly have as many women coming up the ranks. Luana Silva is the one who's just outside the bubble. But if you look at like the top 20 or 30, it's all American and Australian and very, very, literally two Brazilians, her and Gabriel Medina's younger sister.
That's fascinating, right? Like why is that? Now, Luana Silva, isn't she kind of old?
No, you're thinking Silvana Lima.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Silvana Lima is like 35 and she punts airs, right?
Yeah.
She's a great surfer. So that's interesting. I wonder if that has to do with the societal makeup and the sort of norms of the society in South America, in Brazil. Is there a real sort of, what's the word I want to look for, like paternal suppressant there?
Could be. Yeah, it could be. I have no idea about that, but that would make perfect sense. And as opposed to Southern California, where a lot of young girls, of a certain level of means live at the beach, have a lot of recreational time. Parents support this kind of as a main recreation as opposed to doing something else. So that would make perfect sense. And Sophia Medina, by the way, is the other female other than Luana Silva, and she's Gabriel Medina's younger sister, who has had the privilege of traveling around the world, surfing all the great waves, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we
So
shall see how that plays out. That's
yeah,
interesting. The Brazilian storm is
dissipated.
well, and it's male centric, whereas the Freedom Force is all inclusive.
Boom.
Hey, sadly, I don't know if you saw this. The town of Montauk, New York's Long Island was the victim. New York's Long Island was the victim of an act of hate on Monday.
Did not see this.
Early Monday, the Ditch Plains Comfort Station, 2 food trucks, and numerous road signs were found to be defaced with black paint swastikas and anti-Semitic writings, according to Police Chief Michael Sarlo. The East Hampton Town Police were on the scene Monday morning and investigating the incident. Members of the Montauk community are now planning a peace rally on the Montauk Hamlet Green. And according to Sarlo, police are continuing this investigation into these swastikas and anti-Semitic writings found at the beach there in Montauk, a well-known and wonderful surf community on New York's Long Island.
Wild.
Yeah, that stuff's happening, man. Anti-Semitism, I guess it's just like, it's increased like through the roof. 388% uptick in anti-Semitic incidents in the United States since the whole Israel and Palestine situation that occurred October 7th and is continuing to occur.
Yeah, I was wondering if it is a genuine uptick or if it is just being reported on and documented more now because of the war. But it does make sense that there would also be an uptick. It would be reported on more and there would also be an uptick, but it's crazy. Yeah, it's totally crazy. Tragic.
Everyone needs to go surfing. Calm down.
Totally. Final note of mine is Vans Pipe Masters will be taking place in about a month from now. It's October 8th through the 20th, and there's still no official word on format.
I tried to figure it out today for the show. I'm like, that's coming up. Let's get excited about Hawaii. And I couldn't figure out anything other than Jake Howard wrote a piece on Surfer Magazine's website, basically saying what we have all been reporting for a few years, that it's sort of lost its luster. Triple Crown, in my eyes, just does not work as a digital format. I don't know. I want to get fired up for it. I'm just asking. They're putting out these little vignettes about potential guys, like they did one on Justin Quintal, and they did one on Coco Ho. They did one on Baller Stack. That's cool, and I applaud that. But I'd like to know, like, who's in it.
Those surfers are in it, and Frankie Harrer they also did. So those are surfers that are invited to surf in the event, and I think that's the idea. Is they're gonna, they want promotion leading up into the event, so they're doing that. They're partnered with Stab Magazine, so Stab is then amplifying that message out. But I agree with you. Why is there no word on the format for the contest yet? It's only 1 month away.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're obviously working the format out. There's probably someone in those rooms that are saying, hey, let's keep that whole air thing going. Or probably others are going, that didn't really work. And people are going to do airs anyway at the end section. And do we leave room in the judging format for that? Is a 10 a 10? Is there an 11? Is there a 12? I think that stuff seems to be still being worked out, or they would have brought it to our attention.
Yeah. Well, talking about another company that's kind of suffering the woes of the global financial kind of economic crisis, Vans is right there with them. I would say, though, in relation to all of that stuff is there's opportunity, like I said, for the individual surfers, like Vans surfer, Nathan Florence. His stuff's incredible. Like the way that he has monetized his professional surf career is incredible, and the way that he's documenting what he's doing if you go to his Instagram or his YouTube channel right now, he's got videos, 2 or 3 videos from the last 2 weeks in Hawaii of pumping surf. That's as good of content as you can find anywhere. And so take cues from him. Um, any professional surfer out there that's listening, and then also any brands out there that are listening, it's like, I think that is the way of the world, kind of getting behind little individuals that you support and just helping, co-branding stuff with them, keeping expenses low seems to be the way to get through what's going on.
What I find fascinating about that is that Nathan Florence and all of the Florence brothers, it seems, are extremely likable. Like that model doesn't necessarily work if you're just not as an engaging spirit, or as just, some people just are kind of introverted and they're just not, that YouTube model doesn't make sense for them because they just aren't going to come off naturally. And I guess what I'm saying is, frankly, they don't want to do it. Like
John,
they are.
but John's introverted in that way, and he's figured out a way to make it work for him.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is those guys just seem sweet. They just seem like good people. And I think that there's certain people that have a little bit of an edge on to them that this might not make sense. They might be a little too whatever it is. I don't know.
Well,
but I want to watch Nathan Florence as much because he's Nathan as he's charging crazy slabs around the world.
I agree with what you're saying. They're nice, sweet people. And yes, nice, sweet people seem to have an easier way through life, seem to have people who want to give them jobs, want to pay them, want to work with them, want to be partnered, and want them to be successful. And then people who have an edge, who are not as likable, have a harder time.
By the way, you mentioned last week, I think it was, we talked about Idolo, and I mentioned Derek Hines' old pieces in the 80s and 90s and even into the 2000s once in a while on Surfer Magazine, where it was, Derek would say, look, this surfer is either going up, they're staying neutral, or they're going down coming into the
power rankings
season. Pardon me?
Power rankings.
Thank you. I guess it was called Power Rankings. I think there was maybe it was Derek Hines Power Rankings. I forget.
It was.
Kanoa, you mentioned Kanoa Igarashi, and I want to know what your thoughts on Kanoa are regarding up, neutral, or going down. And I don't just mean CT points. I mean this other bigger thing that you're talking about, which is in the eyes of the end user, the consumer fan base.
Great question. Because as it related to Italo, my answer was down on the CT tour, up in the influencer status. And I think that if Kanoa has any shot, that's his only shot, is up on the influencer status. I say down for Kanoa, maybe flat, but likely down on the CT tour. I was just looking up his rankings, or his ranking this year. He finished 14th, which is an all-time low, I would think, for Kanoa. And the same argument that I've made against Kanoa, I'll make here, because nothing has changed. There is no point of difference in Kanoa's surfing. Kanoa's strength is consistency. He'll put 2 7s on the board, whether he's at Huntington Beach for the US Open, or at Pipeline, or at Margaret River, or at Chopu. 2 7s, which is great. That'll get you through the first couple of rounds of surfing. But when you come up against somebody who can put a 10 on the board, that's where he falters, right? So there's no point of difference in Kanoa's surfing. What is the point of difference for Gabriel Medina, big airs, or Italo? There's this explosiveness where they can get into the 10 range. And the good news for them is they're so consistent, they'll actually get into the 8, 9, and 10 range all the time. But even for somebody like Baron Mamiya, he can put a 10 on the board. He can get a 10 at pipe. He can do a big air at pipe even. And so Kanoa he's never going to put a 10 on the board. There's no point of differences in surfing. So what we're going to see is just consistency, but he comes up against these people that are explosive, and we're always going to want to see them do something explosive. And so do the judges. Now, Kanoa's so on the rankings, that's where he's at. On the influencer thing, I know he's huge in Japan. That's what everybody always says. And that's why he has these contracts with non-endemic brands like Visa.
Mhm.
I don't know how long that lasts. And I don't know in that world if that has staying power or if you have to do something new all the time. So, whatever that was for the fan base that he was engaging with up until now, can he just?
Yeah, you're frozen, by the way. You just froze.
I do his success on the CT.
There you go. Okay, you're back. Well, let me ask you this. Can Kanoa Igarashi win at lowers in the if he makes the final five?
No,
He cannot beat, generally speaking, he cannot beat Felipe Toledo. He cannot beat Gabe. Can he beat Ethan Ewing?
no.
So a format on the CT where the old format where you build points and then the guy with the most points wins, there's a shot for him to win a world title in the old format where he keeps racking up semifinals. Maybe he makes a final, he gets a quarter, throws out a shitty one. And he's right there, assuming the rest of the guys also sort of have middling runs. Nobody has like 4 wins or whatever.
Correct.
But this new format, Kanoa has no shot, according to your thinking, that there's just no way he can beat those guys at lowers.
Nope.
Interesting.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, that's how Joel Parkinson won his title in 2012. He didn't win an event throughout the year, but he made consistent finals days and then boom, found himself, but yeah, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Interesting.
And the other thing is nowadays, there's too many guys who are going to win multiple events. Gabriel Medina is going to win multiple events a year. Felipe Toledo is going to win multiple events a year. Ethan Ewing will have a shot. John will have a shot at doing that, depending on what the waves are doing. Pipe, Chopu, he can win those. So when you have somebody stacking 10,000 point chips regularly, it makes it a lot harder for Kanoa to find himself in that final five.
Well, we shall see. That's why they surf the events. That's why they have the events. And all right. Well, look, David, it's been a great show. We've said a lot. So until next time, adios and aloha.